By now, everyone knows just how bad this season's been for the Lakers. But what we really need to look at is all of the Lakers' bad decisions over the past few years and see exactly how Lakers management has destroyed the bright future that they once had. And at how LeBron James is hurting the team just as much. And to do this, we're looking back at 2013 when Dwight Howard had just left the team and Kobe had just tore his Achilles in the playoffs. And where Kobe would spend the entire 2013 and 14 season recovering. And before he ever stepped foot back on the court, at 35 years old with a torn Achilles, the Buss family extended Bryant's contract for 2 more years and $48 million. An unnamed source said that the Buss family wanted to keep Kobe as the league's highest paid player and wanted him to have an extension before he returned to the court to show their gratitude for all the years he gave them. They wanted to send a message that they were going to set a precedent for the future by rewarding loyal players to their franchise. And any way you look at this, it was just a terrible move. I mean, imagine the Mavs making Dirk the highest paid player in the league this year, or the Heat doing it with Dwayne Wade. It jeopardized their franchise for the next few years to let Kobe walk away happy, even though I'm sure that he was just as happy before they did this. And I mean, we really can't blame Kobe too much for this, because it was said that they could have offered him up to $32 million a year, but he chose to get paid less. Because if a player that's not worth it is offered that kind of money, who would willingly turn that down? But with this, there was no question that the team wasn't going to win games, and it really hurt their future because it took opportunities away from the younger players, and opportunities to sign other guys to make their team better. So to give a little context, this just goes to show the kind of owners the Lakers have, and how their franchise operates. With that being said though, they did get lucky, and this actually turned out to be a good thing for them, because with Kobe's contract taking up all of their cap space, the team was terrible enough for the next few years, and it helped them land young players like D'Angelo Russell and Brandon Ingram. So they got lucky with this one. But as you'll see, this is where their flat out terrible move started, where they basically traded away all their great young stars and everyone of value for them to clear salary cap space for the future. But their luck would quickly run out. Now in 2015, the Lakers picked D'Angelo Russell 2nd overall and said that he was going to be their next franchise player. And this is really when they started building up their young core, because they now had D'Angelo, Jordan Clarkson, Julius Randle, and Larry Nance Jr. And the team was still bad, so the next year they got Brandon Ingram 2nd overall too. They drafted all of these guys because of their potential bright futures, but the 2017 season was the real turning point, when the Lakers decided to take things from a slow rebuild to wanting to clear all of their cap space to win now. And I think the first that we should mention is the fact that the Lakers had Lou Williams on their team in 2017 until they traded him for Corey Brewer. The man would have played there long term and for cheap, because he signed with the Clippers last season on a deal worth $7 million a year because he wanted to play in LA to stay close to home and really wasn't too concerned about getting a big contract. Which means the Lakers probably would have been his first choice, but since they traded him for basically nothing, he ended up going to the Clippers instead, and will likely become 6th man of the year for the 2nd year in a row. So that's really the first mistake by LA, but let's look at the next one, when right before the 2017 draft, they traded D'Angelo Russell and Timofey Mozgov's bad contract for Brook Lopez and the 27th overall pick in that year's draft. With Magic Johnson coming out and saying D'Angelo was immature and lacked the work ethic and leadership that the team needed. Lakers GM Rob Pelinka had a different take on the situation though, who said, "This trade did 3 things for us. Gave us an all-star caliber player that can spread the floor, amazing salary cap relief with the ability to sign 2 max players in 2018, and gives us 4 draft picks in the 2017 draft." And on top of their reasonings, there were a few more reasons why this trade really went down. One was because of what Magic Johnson said about Russell. The second was because they wanted salary cap flexibility to make a trade for Paul George or sign him and another max free agent in the 2018 offseason. And the third was because they had their minds set on drafting Lonzo Ball. But let's break down each part of this. First, Magic came out and basically said that he didn't believe in D'Angelo and didn't think he was a leader. Well, now he's an all-star that's putting up 20-7 on the season and leading the young Brooklyn Nets to the playoffs. After only 2 seasons in the league, they gave up on him way too early and for no real reason. And the next reason they traded him was initially because they wanted to try and make a trade for Paul George in the 2017 offseason. And then when he was traded to the Thunder instead, they still thought they'd get him and another max free agent in the 2018 offseason. Well, that clearly never happened, and they only ended up getting LeBron James. And now the theme for this season is that he's had no real help on the team. And then the third reason they traded D'Angelo Russell was because the Lakers had their eyes on Lonzo Ball. So they say D'Angelo wasn't enough of the leader, so they picked the most introverted member of the Ball family to lead their team. The guy that's been too scared to shoot the ball his first 2 years in the league. Now we actually can't blame Magic Johnson too much for this one, because again this one tracks back to Jeanie Buss. Because it was said that Magic actually wanted to draft De'Aaron Fox, but Buss told him to draft Lonzo. Now whether Lonzo develops into an elite player one day or not is another conversation. But with the fact that this Lakers team with LeBron James clearly wants to win now, it definitely would have been better to have De'Aaron, who's putting up 17-7 this year. But all of this is to say that Magic still came out and said that Lonzo was the new face of the franchise. The same exact thing that he said about D'Angelo 2 years prior. And now 2 years has gone by for Lonzo, and he's already trying to trade him too. They traded their first young player for salary cap space, and Brook Lopez, who only put up 13-5 for them before they let him walk after one season. I will say though that they did end up getting lucky here, because the pick they got in return for Russell just so happened to turn into Kyle Kuzma. It was bad management by them, but again they got lucky. But this is really where their luck runs out. Because during the 2017 and 18 season, they trade Jordan Clarkson and Larry Nance Jr. for Isaiah Thomas, who again, his contract expired at the end of the year. A first round pick and Channing Frye. The pick turned into Moritz Wagner, aka no one, so they basically traded away 2 more of their younger players for salary space. And now look at that. Clarkson's become one of the higher scoring bench players in the entire league, putting up 17 a game for the Cavs as their 6th man. And Nance has continued to be a solid player. But wait, there's more. This offseason, the team had the opportunity to re-sign Julius Randle, but to save cap room, they let him walk and he instead signed with the Pelicans for $9 million a year. So they saved $9 million, and no surprise, Randall's come out and put up 21-8-3 this year for the Pelicans, which makes 5 players for them that they've let walk or traded for next to nothing, and right away 4 of them have developed into much better players. And with all of that cap space that they blew their team up to sign 2 max free agents, they signed LeBron, missed out on Paul George, and couldn't get Kawhi Leonard in a trade. And that brings us to this season. And with how things have gone, it's really looking like they would have been better off not making any moves at all. But let's keep going to the Anthony Davis situation. And this just happened, so we won't spend too long on it. But basically, as we know, LA offered their last 3 young players in Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, and Kyle Kuzma, with most of the rest of the roster for Davis. And the Pelicans made that trade offer public to sabotage the Lakers. And getting into this huge back and forth with New Orleans has caused these young guys' chemistry and loyalty to plummet. But now, if these guys' relationship with the team wasn't already bad enough, one of the recurring problems here, Jeanie Buss was delusional enough to go on an interview and say that the Lakers never even tried to trade for AD in the first place, which you can only assume made the disconnect between management and the players that much bigger than it already was. Not only did she try to trade him, but she wasn't woman enough to admit it. And speaking of players with problems, we gotta bring up the biggest in LeBron James, who's come out and hurt his legacy more this year than any of his career. With instances like calling out his teammates, not playing defense on multiple occasions, and choosing not to sit with his teammates, he's been one of the bigger problems for the entire team. And even calling out players saying they're too distracted and not committed to the team, and then stays out till midnight recording music with 2 Chainz and misses the very next game due to load management. He hasn't played defense all year long, turned on playoff mode and did nothing, and it's been clear that he gave up on the team a long time ago. And like I said, all of this has hurt the team's chemistry and led to it being clear that he's no longer the best player in the world. I mean, if you're just looking at statistics, he hasn't missed a beat, but if you're looking at basically anything else, he's a different player. And sure, he had that groin injury, but it's been more than that. So based on this year, it's led to fans, media, and even former players coming out and saying that LeBron has been a terrible teammate and a major reason why the team's been so bad. I mean, he's been praised the last couple of years for never slowing down with age, but it's clear his game has finally slowed down. And sure, this Lakers roster isn't great and they've dealt with a lot of injuries, but even now, LA has a very similar record to what they've had the past few years. And whether it's his problems with management or teammates, LeBron James hasn't made a difference on this Lakers team. So all of this finally leads us to the Los Angeles Lakers' future, and why all of these terrible moves that Lakers management has made over the past few years will most likely be for nothing. Because this offseason, as we've established, LA has cleared way for themselves to have the cap space to sign 2 max free agents to play alongside LeBron. But it doesn't matter because who's going to want to play for this team and with this version of LeBron? Let's take a look. Here's a list of the major free agents this offseason. And let's go down the line here. Kawhi Leonard has already come out and said that he wants to be the leader of a team and doesn't want to play in LeBron's shadow, which is how the rumors shifted from him wanting to go to the Lakers to now wanting to go to the Clippers. If rumors are correct, Jimmy Butler also doesn't want to play with James either. When he was a free agent in 2015, LA was one of the teams at the top of his list. But when formally requesting a trade from the Timberwolves to start this season, his requested destinations were the Knicks, Nets, and Clippers, all teams without a star player. Kyrie Irving is either staying in Boston or heading to New York, and even though he apologized to LeBron, that doesn't mean he wants to team up with him again. Klay Thompson staying in Golden State. Kevin Durant, sure he's a snake, but he wouldn't go that far. Would he? I can't see Kemba Walker going from one terrible team to another. Tobias Harris as a wild card. D'Angelo would never go back. Gasol is almost not worth mentioning. Porzingis is staying with the Mavs. Chris Middleton, why would he leave a better small forward and team to play with a worse one? And if the only players the Los Angeles Lakers get are DeMarcus Cousins and Nikola Vucevic, they're just as doomed then as they are now. I mean, players really recognize how bad the situation is, and how bad management has treated their young players. And that LeBron is clearly on the downswing. Now this really isn't meant to be a hate video on the Lakers or LeBron James, but when this many bad things happen with a team, I know it can come off that way. So based on the situation of everything that has gone on, I don't think anyone is going to willingly go to play with LeBron James and this team. I definitely think they still do have a chance of getting near star level players like Nikola Mirotic with all the money they have to spend, but in terms of getting another star max free agent, their really only hope left may be getting Anthony Davis. But again, there's probably no real chance that that trade goes down after everything that's happened. If this Lakers team truly wants to win, they're gonna have to trade all their young stars away this offseason, because that'll be their only real way of landing playoff-ready talent. And if that doesn't happen, we could be looking at a dark next few years for the Los Angeles Lakers and LeBron James.